Hello and welcome to our course Marketing Management Part 2. I am Shashi Shekhar Mishra and I am offering this course in collaboration with my senior colleague Professor Jayanta Chatterjee. Till now we have talked about the first P, that is product and the brand, in this module of this course. So today what I am going to talk about is pricing, and the second P in this marketing mix. And as you can recall from if you have gone through the first part of this course, that is marketing management part 1, you will understand that certain prior pricing blunders can cost so heavily to organizations. So we are again going to talk about some of those cases when we discuss this topic. What we are going to cover in this topic is like how basically the companies price their product and how basically consumers evaluates the price. So we are going to discuss about the pricing and the consumer decision making process towards pricing. Then how do we design, or how do we manage the pricing for the new offering. So the one of the key question when a new product is launched, for when there is no substitute or where no comparable product is present, how do you price a product in those scenarios. So that is another very important aspect of this pricing module. Then the third thing we are going to talk about is the price adaptation. So this is something very important, and we see almost on daily basis that when the companies talk about their pricing, they fail to adapt the pricing with the changes in the market and the other important conditions. And then basically we are going to talk about the price change, basically how and which conditions you should change the price, how you should change the price, how you should execute the changes in the price, and how you should basically integrate these changes in the pricing with the other aspect of the marketing. Then we are going to also talk about the response to a competitor's price challenge. That is another important aspect that you need to understand. Yeah, it cannot be just simply answered in terms of matching the competitors prices. So I will take you to this marketing strategic marketing process framework. There you can understand that pricing is basically one of the marketing mix that is used to execute the strategic marketing or the marketing strategies part. So the pricing is basically a component or tool to implement basically this positioning part. Now you will see that there are very common mistakes that companies make while pricing, and these common mistakes happens. I have just listed some of these pricing blunders here in this slide. That pricing is independent to positioning. Now I would like you to refer back to our one session where we have talked in much detail about the pricing that has costed so much to the launch of Tata Nano. What has happened in that the case of Tata Nano was, when the Nano was launched, it was an engineering marvel from the Tata. Rarely we see in India that the R&D is being done so indigenously, and a product comes out almost indigenously from the organization, and company has done so much of progress in terms of the engineering and technology. So what happens is in that case the product is absolutely fine, but when the product was launched at the cost of it was so much of debate and topic of discussion when this was launched at the price point of 1 lakh, that it was not something which was covered by the Indian media. The pricing of the Tata Nano has attracted the attention of the entire media from the worldwide, because many articles came across the world where they talked about a car which is coming at a price less than $2,500, which was probably the cheapest car in the world. And now this cheapest car tag has costed so much to this car that once it was launched, uh, besides initial rush to have this car, people started looking this car as a basically a very cheap alternative. So this cheap tag has costed so much that it has hurt the positioning of this product, where it was not seen as something which was indigenously developed. It was a very good product in terms of its engineering. Whatever initial problem any new product or the technology faces, with those problems and the media attention and this tag of the cheap car has costed that that Nano does not have that kind of social status, or it was seen as an inferior product because it was priced at rupees 1 lakh. So, that has basically hurt the intended positioning of the Tata, and people in our society will prefer to have car as a basically as a one of the symbol of status, and that is where it did not gel well with the perception of the people, and it has costed a lot to the company. You will find out so many other examples of similar types, and there you can understand when the positioning is the pricing is not used as a strategic tool to reinforce the intended positioning. Probably companies cannot expect a very good kind of market outcome in those scenarios. Another problem that happens while pricing the products is that pricing is not in sync with this other 3 P's, or in the case of services it will be other 6 P's. So, you will see if you go back to this diagram which I have shown to you, that pricing is in conjunction with the other marketing mix. So, pricing has to be in close coordination with when you are doing or designing the pricing program. You have to make sure that pricing reflect the kind of value inherited in the product, and it should also basically is communicated well, and it should also be gel well with the other P, that is place. So, you will understand that this pricing is basically a strategic tool, and it has to fulfill the objective, or it has to reinforce the intended positioning, as well as it has to be well coordinated with the other 3 P's of the marketing mix. Then you will see that another problem which industry basically we observe is that people just calculate the cost and then add some industry accepted common margin to the product, and they sell it. So, now you understand the cost is basically the price is basically cost plus some accepted margin. However, the pricing should reflect the value which is embedded in the product, or the value that the product caters to the customer. So, you will find that the pricing and the cost may not necessarily are in exact correlation. We will find we see very commonly in the pharmaceutical industries where the cost of the drug might be very less, but they are priced on the higher side because they cater to, or they cater to the needs of the patients in a way that they are of very superior value. Every life is so precious, so you cannot basically just look at in terms of the cost plus thing. So, companies price the product on a higher side, and that is basically a important or a smart marketing move from their side, though it can be debated whether this kind of practices are good for the society or not. But apart from that aspect, you will see that the price has to reflect the value rather than basically just having the cost plus some kind of margin way of pricing the product. Then this price adaptation over market changes is another problem that is being observed in the pricing programs of the organization, that once the price is fixed, there are not frequent changes, or the price does not changes with the changes in the market. It has to be in sync with the market changes, and one has to be very while designing the pricing program, one has to be very cautious about that they in their pricing model, or whatever way they design the pricing and change it, they should include all those variables in this design of the pricing program. Then the last thing that is covered in this pricing blunder is that lack of price variation to product items. So, price is another way of differentiating among the product. A customer will expect that if there are 2 products from the same organization, suppose you launch a basically you will very often see that in the car or the automobile industry, companies are launching different variants of the same products. So, you will see that one is a standard product and then there is a high end product. So, if customer is paying something more for a probably higher version of the product, they will expect some kind of additional. So in that case you will you have to understand that if you are providing something extra benefit, so the pricing has to differentiate that extra level of the benefits. Another thing is that pricing also has to vary with this market segment. Segment wise pricing, what we call is another important thing that you will see. In fact, we have talked about the example of IRCTC, this ticket booking process, where what happens is that if you go and book the tickets through the regular window of this railway reservation centers, you will find that the price of those tickets are costlier in the case of what you book through IRCTC, though it might be saving lot of cost on the part of railway to getting the ticket booked through those ways, but still they are pricing it on a higher side because they understand very well that as a customer you are saving lot in terms of your time, your psychological efforts, in fact your physiological efforts, that you have to stand in a long queue, and with those kind of benefits they are able to charge slightly higher, and as a customer we do not mind paying something extra. So the customer who are going through different channels, actually they are charged differently. Then you also see that distribution channels, you will see that one very obvious example of this distribution channel is that online versus offline product pricing. So or within online channels you will see that there are so many this e-commerce vendors, and the prices across these vendors may not vary because associated services or the product quality, the product policies of these online vendors will differ, and that is where the pricing will differ. And also the pricing differ in terms of the purchase occasions also. So depending on the what kind of purchase occasion or the consumption occasion it is, the pricing also varies. So you will understand in today, in fact in today's capitalist world there is nothing like free lunch. So everything that we consume or everything that we purchase, we have to pay the cost. I have listed some of the synonyms of this price. As a customer what we pay, so when we stay in a rented house we have to pay the monthly or whatever mode of payment it is, so we have to pay some rent. As a student you have to pay the tuition fee for your educational programs. As a basically travelers, we have to pay the fare for whatever transportation mode we are using. The rate is also is another term. So product are basically kept in terms of the rate. When you cross the highways, or you have to pay the toll, the premium that you pay for having some kind of product or the service, honorarium that is provided additional to the salary or something for the extra work done by someone, membership fees, that if you are a member of some club or some kind of groups, then you have to pay the membership fees. Very commonly known in our society that this bribe is another form of fee that a person has to pay to get his work done. So not a very ethical way, but it exists. Dues, salary, these are some of the forms of the price that one has to pay. An important way of an important form of price is that the tax that we have to pay for the services that is rendered by the government. So you will see that nothing comes actually free, and that is why I call this slide as no free lunch. You will see that we have to pay a price for almost every product or the service that we consume in the society. With this I will take you forward to the important thing in this pricing is that how basically the consumer process this pricing information. And as I have already said, like price should not only be seen as a basically a price tag, it should be seen as something a strategic tool, and one has to understand how the consumer process this information of the pricing. So one of the important thing in you will see that consumer psychology is that reference prices, how basically consumers equate the prices of a product with respect to different references. We will talk about it. Then price quality inferences, price endings, the numbers which are there. So there is some kind of numerology inside it, price cues. Now talking about consumer reference prices, we see that there are different ways in which actually a consumer create some kind of reference in their mind to see whether this price is in sync with, or this is basically a price that they should pay. So one will see that whether it is a fair price, or from his past experiences, or what he has learned over the period of time, or what he has heard about the product, or what he can guess from the constituent of the product. Based on some of these things, consumer can understand whether this is a fair price for a product. So when you go for shopping a product, you see whether when you see certain kind of services being rendered, and you see the time of that, the time being invested in creating those kind of services, you can understand that this is the unit cost of the people or the inputs in creation of that service. And when you calculate, you do some kind of backward calculation, you can understand that this is the cost of this product. So this is a whether the pricing that a vendor is offering is a fair price or not. Then there is another reference price, which is in the form of typical price, like what are the basically the prices that are seen in the market for such kind of product or the services. This probably you know from mostly from your past experiences. Then we talk about the last price paid. This comes from your what you have purchased from the last time, and from there basically you see how much the difference in this new pricing and the last pricing is. And if there is a increment or a decrease in the pricing, you will try to first figure out whether there is some kind of reason or something is happening that is basically making you to pay more or pay less. So the next thing is this upper bound prices. The maximum price is the customer you can pay. It is related with the maximum value that a product creates, and willingness to pay. So that is something. Then lower bound prices cannot be less than the cost of the product. Then what are the competitors prices, expected future prices, and usual discounted price. This is something which is very commonly observed in today's world, where companies price their product, they will show the MRP, and then they will say some kind of 20, 30, 40% of the discount, and then you understand this kind of discounts are very common for such kind of products. And from there actually you see, so one of the basically the not so good side of this kind of discounted pricing is that consumers rarely figure out what is the true price, or what is the exact or the fair price. But one of the cues that companies giving from this kind of pricing is that that you are getting something at less than its actual value. So that is basically the effort from the company side through this reference pricing. Then in terms of this consumer perception versus reality, you will see that many brands are overvalued brand, there are many brands which are undervalued brands. So some of the brands from the survey of some of these US and European nations is like brands like Land Rover, Mercedes, some of these brands are rated as overvalued brand in some of the surveys. On the other side there are undervalued brand also. So and similarly you can see in Indian context also, some of the brands are overvalued, some of the brands are undervalued, in the sense the brand does not cater the value, or its price is much higher than what it should be actually. On the other side there are brands which cater much superior value then actually they costing to you as a consumer. So maybe as an exercise what you can do in the forum is just as a fun exercise, you can rate 3 overvalued brand and 3 undervalued brands from the Indian context, and you can post it. So and we can probably discuss it in our discussion section. Then I will talk about this price cues. So there are some of the concept in the price cues which are commonly known, is that you see the companies, why a company or an organization is pricing a product at $299 or rupees 299 rather than rupees 300, when there is so much problem of this change of 1 rupees. So why this kind of pricing happens? The kind of pricing happens because you yourself can observe right now that when you start looking at a price, then you do not start from the last digit, that is 9 or 00. You start your processing this information from the left to right. So first you look at the price in a 200 range. So as a customer you try to see that the price is on the 200 side rather than it is at 300. So that is what basically the psychology that works here. And there are other things also, like odd number discount perception, that odd numbers are seen basically as a way of product which is available at the discount. On the other side, the even number ending is basically seen as something which is related with a high value product. Then also you will see that many times we see that huge kind of banners outside the stores, or within stores you will see that different places in the stores you will see that sale sign is put to just to show that customer that that the product is available at a discount, and that is something basically a catching point, or something which attracts the consumer attraction, which is getting short every day. So this is used as a basically a tool to capture the consumer attraction. So these are some of the things that we have discussed in terms of the consumer psychology, but one has to be careful when they are trying to basically send some kind of cues to the customer through their pricing, that these cues can be given in the situation when the consumer knowledge is low, or product is purchased infrequently, or the design changes in the product happens quite often. So the customers are unable to detect the changes in this kind of price changeovers, and they can, if they are able to detect, they will see that they have a reason to justify this kind of changes. So with this probably I will stop here, and when we will meet in the next session we will talk further about the pricing, and then we look into the ways or the method of pricing and the different aspect of this pricing methods. Thank you very much.